With the call to the member for Chifley.
Thanks, Deputy Speaker. A few weeks ago, someone alerted me to a problem they were experiencing accessing, of all things, an e-book. The e-book had been purchased in the US using an account the person had set up when they'd lived there, and they've now moved back to Australia and in the course of downloading their apps to a new tablet, discovered a problem. Now, this person's got a US account for the book app and an Australian account. And on attempting to download their US purchases, a blunt warning appeared saying the device is already associated with a US account. If you download purchases with this account, you cannot auto-download or download past purchases for 90 days. And remember the days when you could buy a book, read it and pass on a good read to someone else? Well, the only time you had to wait 90 days for that book is perhaps if you were shipping it from overseas. But in the digital age, what's happened to reading a book and doing with it what you wanted? In the information age, things are actually happening to make it harder to access and distribute information. Things like the terms and conditions underpinning e-books has meant that the rights and privileges previous consumers enjoyed with a paperback have ended with an e-book. You can only enjoy permission to access the book. You don't own the book in any physical sense. And the authors and the creative sector will tell you it's a way of clamping down on the serious problem of internet piracy, and I can sympathise with the argument to a degree, but the sellers have monetised data, squeezing more for their product, and competition law and international trade treaties let them do this. And the overreach now appears to extend to people who've legitimately purchased data and have exchanged currency, purchased an item, they've got ownership, and they're still denied access to what they own. Now, some may argue this is a copyright issue and we need to loosen the digital handcuffs, a term coined by my colleague and friend, the member for Throsby, Stephen Jones, when we were sitting on the House of Reps Infrastructure and Communications IT price inquiry, which generated a lot of attention, especially from Australian consumers who felt they'd been taken for granted, who'd complained about delayed access to new digital products relative to consumers in other countries, but has slugged up to 50% more for the privilege. Now, copyright, as I mentioned, could be the culprit, but there's something to be said about competition law, because today, nearly a year after seeing this government of slips, trips and fumbles, it's now patting itself on the back for launching yet another review, this time in the competition law. But let's look at its track record in freeing up restrictions on digital products. Now, the report that I'm referring to, At What Cost, delivered recommendations to fight this consumer rip-off, and both the electronic and paper versions sit with the Minister for Communications, and it urged, actually, that competition law be amended. And dealing with some of the things that are in this resolution. Now, Mr Turnbull agrees, the Minister agrees these type of practices are unfair. He said, I think that as we move into more of a digital economy, the ability to have different limits on rights and licences from one jurisdiction to another are becoming more futile. Well, given his apparent support, he's been nudged for a response by the Financial Review and the Australian, and when he's been asked to respond, he said he'd do it within the first anniversary of the report. That anniversary was on July 29. We still don't have a response. Instead, the government's busy doing the bidding of big business, obsessed with internet piracy while not taking a look at why Australia tops the chart for piracy. Why not take a look at another chart we top, digital product prices? And as Communications Alliance, the industry body, has advised, that artificial barriers to content, such as geo-blocking, are a classic generator of online piracy. Where the big players have made products easier, safer and more price-sensitive, you've seen ample evidence of positive changes in consumer behaviour. The best response to piracy is a market-led response, but consumers stand aghast as the market skews towards business. Business will always give you a full-throated call for deregulation as long as it can game competition and copyright regulation in its favour. Considering this, my message to the government on behalf of millions of frustrated consumers is stop seeing every one of these consumers as an internet pirate, respond to the IT pricing inquiry report, ensure competition and copyright law can unshackle the digital handcuff of Australian consumers, and it's time that there's a fairer deal for the consumer, because that time is well and truly here, because Australian consumers have suffered long enough. And if you want to be fair dinkum about competition policy and competition law reform, act on the matters that actually have inhibited consumers getting a better deal, some of the things that even the member for Hughes referred to in dealing with price discrimination. If you're fair dinkum about that, you'll act rather than talk.
I thank the